Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Here's where we are. With the holidays looming, Republicans created a massive government crisis out of nothing. They then begged Democrats to bail them out, which the Democrats did tonight, and a costly shutdown appears to be averted at the 11th hour. With the passage of a bill to fund the government until March in the House, thanks to near unanimous support from Democrats just hours before the federal government was set to run out of funding. We're still waiting on the Senate, though that's expected. This absurd flirtation with disaster was completely preventable, but it became necessary after Republican leadership scuttled a robust bipartisan funding bill that had been hammered out between the parties over months. They got orders to oppose it from the big guy, the wealthy showman who is the de facto leader of the Republican Party, Elon Musk. The world's richest man who used his Twitter platform to blast the government funding bill dozens of times. After Musk declared war on the bill, then the actual president-elect, that guy named Donald Trump, followed suit, saying, yeah, also I don't like it. And he wanted the funding bill to also do away with the federal debt ceiling. Okay? What then unfolded over the last 24, 36 hours was predictable chaos, you could call it. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson suddenly struggling to keep the government open and keep his own leadership job, while the world's richest man tweeted about how a government shutdown wouldn't be that bad. In fact, it would be good. An absurd situation that Democrats hammered in floor debates tonight.
At the behest of the world's richest man, who no one voted for, the United States Congress has been thrown into pandemonium. It leads you to the question of who is in charge? I thought that there was a Republican majority in this body, not a President Musk majority.
Still, given the last-minute nature of the bill and the need for suspension of the rules, a two-thirds vote, Democrats swooped in to vote for the bill that passed tonight. It was in some ways very similar to the original bill that Musk killed. So it keeps the government open until mid-March. It keeps the disaster aid and emergency relief for farmers flowing, which were aspects of the bill. But crucially, and we're going to get into this tonight, it did not and does not include the original bill's $190 million for pediatric cancer research. Notably, it also did not include what Trump said he wanted most, what he called for, what he said he would support primaries over and end the debt ceiling. But the bill and Speaker Johnson got the seal of approval from the guy who really pulls the strings. Quote, "The Speaker did a good job here given the circumstances. It went from a bill that weighed pounds to a bill that weighed ounces." We all know, of course, that the weight of a bill is the most important part of it. And what were those circumstances, Elon? The conditions you caused? Even so, after the vote, Speaker Johnson assured reporters that both of his bosses were pleased with the outcome.
I was in constant contact with President Trump throughout this process, spoke with him most recently about 45 minutes ago. He knew exactly what we were doing and why, and this is a good outcome for the country. I think he certainly is happy about this outcome as well. Elon Musk and I talked within about an hour ago, and we talked about the extraordinary challenges of this job. And I said, hey, you want to be Speaker of the House? I don't know. He said, this may be the hardest job in the world. I think it is. But we're going to get through this.
I talked to Trump. I talked to Musk. At one level, it's just the latest and starkest reminder Republicans have not been capable of smoothly governing for years. It's exactly what they've been doing during this Congress, the most dysfunctional Congress basically in anyone's memory. It's the one that you remember started in January 2023 with the longest, most contentious vote for a House Speaker since the lead up to the Civil War. It took 4 days and 15 rounds of voting for Kevin McCarthy to realize his life dream of becoming Speaker, and then he only lasted a few months before being ousted by a handful of his own colleagues. It was led by now former Congressman Matt Gaetz. We're awaiting the release of his possible ethics report about allegations of sexual impropriety. Anyway, something McCarthy says wasn't about policy disagreements, but something else altogether.
And I'll give you the truth why I'm not Speaker. It's because one person, a member of Congress, wanted me to stop an ethics complaint because he slept with a 17-year-old. An ethics complaint that started before I ever became Speaker, and that's illegal, and I'm not going to get in the middle.
This is still that Republican Party. This shutdown mess is part and parcel of their signature incompetence. Now, there is one new twist. Where House Republicans used to take their marching orders directly from Donald Trump, this version of Trump is now 78 years old. He's entering office as the oldest man ever to enter the office in history. He seems less energetic than ever. And there appears to be a new, more powerful party boss in town in the form of the world's richest man, who's decades younger, owns an influential platform, the unelected co-president Elon Musk. Now, this is a guy who clearly has very little understanding of how Congress and the Constitution work. But whatever Musk is up to, it is only possible because of the Republican Party's longstanding incompetence, infighting, self-involvement, inability to articulate a cohesive vision of the public good. Throughout the campaign this year, their incompetence was papered over, forgotten, didn't really punch through. And there was this gathering idea that MAGA politicians had learned that they'd gotten smarter and more sophisticated. They had a playbook for governing this time. They had Project 2025. And a big part of that is true. It continues to be really ominous that this new administration has developed in these 4 years what seem to be pretty detailed plans for mass deportations, using the tools of law enforcement against political rivals and opponents. But over this last few days is the first test of their competence right here. And it doesn't look like these people spent a lot of time practicing and getting their reps in so that they could be game ready when they came back off the bench. Sahil Kapoor is a senior national reporter for NBC News, and he joins us live from Capitol Hill. In the end, Sahil, it seems to me like the ultimate thing that always brings these to a resolution, which is that everyone wants to get out of town for the holidays, was what ended things here.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it, Chris. It was quite a turnaround over just 2 days from President-elect Trump and Elon Musk blowing up that earlier deal to the House of Representatives, ultimately passing a slimmed-down version of it. And it's very notable that the House passage of the bill only came after Speaker Johnson went through several iterations. Finally, on Plan D, he agreed to strip out the single biggest demand that Donald Trump had made, kind of at the 11th hour, this curveball that he threw, saying that he wanted this Congress to get the debt limit off his plate so he could come into office and pursue his agenda, including major tax cuts. Democrats said no way they were going to do that. They saw that as them kind of rolling out the red carpet, just as he wants to pass a big tax cut that they argue will primarily benefit the wealthy. But in the end, you know, Trump threatened to primary what he said any Republican who voted for a bill without a debt limit extension, and 170 Republicans voted for it. One of the takeaways there is that Republicans have an easier time saying no to Trump when they do collective action. You know, when it's not just a few of them that he can go after individually and target them. When it's 170 of them, he's not going to come after them and primary them. Now, Chris, this also creates a massive legislative traffic jam in the early part of Donald Trump's presidency next year. They have pushed the deadline to March 14th. That means they're going to have to come right back to the table, cut another deal with Democrats, because they can't pass a bill like this without Democrats even next year when they have full control of Congress. There's also the debt limit deadline that they have to deal with now next year. It's not dealt with in this one. Major party line bills on immigration, energy, and tax cuts that Republicans are trying to pursue, in addition to confirming President Trump's cabinet nominees and personnel through the Senate. That is a lot to do. And this wafer-thin Republican margin in the House, the first thing they've got to do is elect a speaker. Mike Johnson is going to run for re-election. He expects to become speaker again. But when they take office, when they take their seats, Chris, on January 3rd, the margin is going to be 219 to 215 because Matt Gaetz is not going to take his seat. That means Speaker Johnson can lose one Republican, just one. A second defection could prevent him from getting the speaker's job and throw the entire Republican agenda into disarray. So that's where they are now. He's got 2 weeks to make sure he can get the votes and kick off what is likely to be, even in the best case scenario, a very, very rocky next year for President-elect Trump's agenda.
Yeah, you made this point, which is great, that on Wednesday, Trump threatened to primary any Republican who votes for a clean continuing resolution without a debt limit extension. That was his threat. His demand was, I don't know what Elon's doing. He's doing his thing. But my demand is you do the debt ceiling. Bupkis. It lost the vote on the debt ceiling at 38 defections, and then this passes today with 170 votes. As you say, Friday, 170 Republicans vote for a clean continuing resolution without a debt limit extension. The bill passed overwhelmingly. Whereas the spending Musk was focused on did get cut out. It seems like one of them got what they wanted and one didn't. Sahil Kapoor, thank you, and I'm glad that you can also go home for the holidays.